Good day, planet. You already know I'm gonna get straight into it. But before I do, I just want to say that I wouldn't recommend marriage for anyone. And it's not just based off of my experience, it's based off of friends, family, colleagues, people I went to school with, people I counsel. Just the way social media, the way the legal system is set up, and feminism running rampant, it's not an environment conducive to a healthy marriage nowadays. Now, with that out of the way, let me take you on a brief stroll down memory lane or nightmare lane for me. Me and my ex met in downtown Atlanta. We had mutual acquaintances. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. She saw a picture of me. We set up a dinner date, and everything went smooth on the dinner date until she told me that she was in the military and about to get deployed. Now, I didn't care for a long term relationship, so I was just kind of like, ah. And I was already seeing a couple chicks, so I was just like, I'll just let her go, but I kept it cordial and had a good time on a date. Upon me dropping her off, I was leaving. She called me before I left the neighborhood, like, you must be disinterested. I didn't even get a hug. I was like, you know what? I'm still in the neighborhood. Let me come back and give you a hug. So I go back and give her a hug. I ask her what she's doing, for the rest of the night. She's like, she's gonna watch a little TV and hopefully study a little bit, but she can do that tomorrow. So I'm like, cool, let me come in and just chop it up a little bit. One thing led to another. We ended up having sex for hours on end. Um, and then a relationship started. The first year was cool. She was respectful. She listened. There was no indications of cheating. She was nurturing. As far as I knew, she was in the military. She had a job, and she was in her last semester of college. Cool. Fast forward to a year. Right around a year, that's when she became pregnant with our first child, and that's when things changed. You know, I started finding out little white lies and stuff. Like, well, I guess they weren't so little because I found out that she couldn't really rent a place. She had bad renters history, but she blamed it on her roommate, and I just kind of took her word for it and believed her. And 7 weeks after she had the first kid, she went to the hospital, got cleared, and that day she got pregnant with the second kid, two little girls. And then more lies came out. I found out that she had been kicked out of the military. I found out that she never finished college, like she said. She went through the ceremony and everything, but she didn't actually graduate. So I started finding out all of these big lies. And on top of that, she started kind of controlling me, trying to tell me what to do, who to hang with, so on. So it just started going downhill. But I was still so driven. I was working full in overtime. I was finishing up my master's degree. I was interning. I just had a lot going on, and I still was spending time with my kids and trying to be intimate with my partner. But after the second kid, she became unattracted to me, like immediately after the second kid. So we started barely having sex, and probably 6 months or so after having the first kid, I got a house, and I'm just knocking stuff off our checklist, knocking stuff off, thinking I'm being a good man. We get into a fight the day we move to our new house, the one that she picked. She didn't even have to move anything. I hired movers. All I asked her was to tell the movers where you want the stuff. I had my little spare room and I was getting that in order, and I'm like, just tell the movers where you want everything. I come out everything in a corner. So I'm like, what happened? She immediately spazzes out on me like, oh, I don't know how to handle stuff and so on. But it just was an indication of what was yet to come. So after we moved into the house, I'm like, okay, everything clicking. About 2, 3 months later, I marry her. This is where everything immediately went downhill. Soon as I married her, she moved an older cousin in that was more like an aunt figure. And the aunt had a 13-year-old kid. So when the aunt came, she just got very distracted. She already hadn't been working a lot because the two young kids, but she just was spending a lot of time at the mall, driving the aunt around, just craziness. And she was from the island, so she had other aunts around. With the islands, they're very close knit with their family, and it can be a benefit, but there's also detriments. Like her family was overly involved, overly opinionated, And every time I would try to tell her, it would just cause chaos. So this older cousin came and she started implanting feminist ideologies in her head. Like, oh, I can't tell her this, or she just wouldn't listen, you know. I had to put the aunt out, which causes extra tension between us because she loves her family, but it was damaging the relationship even more. So I put the aunt out. Not too long after I put the aunt out, she came across a new job. And it was a decent paying job, around $50,000 a year at a distribution company. It was like a warehouse, but it was a distribution company. So with the ground workers, I'm telling her, you know, just people in general, stay out these dudes' face. Like, a lot of people appear nice, but you're an attractive woman. At the end of the day, if they get a chance to fuck, you know, they're gonna fuck. So stay out of dude's face. So I don't want to hear no excuses. I'm just doing my job as a man to lead. She didn't stay out of the dude's face. I had just married her, and I had to file for separation after 7 months. Now, I didn't find out she was cheating till like 6 months after we got married. But when I saw the messages, she had done been cheating for about 3 months already. You get what I'm saying? So she was cheating maybe even before 3 months after we got married. But I can see it was 3 months after we got married. And the way I call her cheating was because our kids was trained when we get a message or a call, hand us our phone. They would be playing with our phones on YouTube, looking at YouTube. But if we get a call or a message, hand me the phone. So I came from a long day of work. My ex would sleep on the couch. And as soon as I came through the door, my oldest, which was like 2 at the time, came, handed me the phone like, Daddy, look. I look at the phone and it's the pre-message of like, hey, babe, some guy. And I go look at the messages, which I never used to, like, I never went through her phone before. She used to go through mine whenever it was unlocked or the kids had it. She would just snoop through my stuff and always accuse me of cheating, but never found anything after years. So I'm going through the phone, and obviously they've been intimate, and she had done had my kids around a dude. And in the beginning, she was discussing our relationship with this dude, and he was acting friendly. But of course, once he got a chance, you know, he moved in. So be it. So when I confronted her and I woke her up and had her call the dude, they couldn't make up their lies quick enough. You know what I'm saying? She was caught. But this dude turned around and got more emotional than me about my wife, which ended to me and him about to get into it. And he was threatening me to kill me. And that's what I want you guys to be careful of. Women, they can get you killed. They can have you kill somebody and end up in prison. They can end up making you bankrupt and so on. They can just destroy your life, and before you know it, you're a homeless bum walking down the street. You know what I'm saying? So I catch her cheating. A week later, I found a paper that says she went to the hospital for excessive vaginal bleeding. And I confront her about it. She says she admits to a miscarriage. I'm like, okay, far along were you? She told me the doctor said she was about 6 weeks along. We hadn't had sex in like 3 months at that time, and we're married. You know what I'm saying? So I would have ended up rubbing this girl's feet, feeding her all type of shit while she pregnant, and the baby wasn't even mine. Of course, she said it was, but it wasn't mine. We hadn't had sex. At that point, I just wanted out. I already wanted out with the cheating, but I was just ready for her to leave. And I, told her, let's go file for divorce. She refused. So I went and filed for separation. Once she found out I filed for separation, she started making my life hell. It was already hell because the whole time she was cheating for those months and I didn't know it, she was starting arguments about a sock left on a dirty clothes hamper hanging off the side of it. Like, those were real arguments. I want Parmesan cheese on my spaghetti, which is going to mess the spaghetti up. Why don't I just eat it like crazy stuff? So once she found out that I was filing for separation, stuff got even worse. She would walk in the house talking to dudes on the phone, on speakerphone. But if I would get mad, she would call the police. With like just disrespecting me to the ultimate level. She would start fights and call the police and say I assaulted her. And when that didn't work, she literally started assaulting me and called on the police but it didn't work. And eventually she got in trouble because, you know, she left marks, like she scratched my skin open real badly one time. But I was bent on the fact, like I knew she was trying to get me in prison or in jail, so I just didn't bite, you know. So just a real tough situation because for months on end, she was just torturing me, starting fights, taking my stuff, taking my toothbrush and clippers and everything, like just wild, crazy stuff. So eventually I filed for divorce. So I filed for separation about 7 months after marriage and divorce for 11 months after marriage. So I filed for divorce, and so when I filed for divorce, she's hovering over me with like a butcher knife and some carpenter scissors. Luckily, I was quick enough to grab my phone and record her before she can try to, you know, drop the weapons or whatever. And I used that in court, which was very beneficial. So I had to get a protective order, which she violated every single, I'm not exaggerating, she violated every single line of the protective order. She was ordered to leave the house. Within days, she came back and cleared my house out with her brother and several of her church members. Like my neighbor who knows her by name and my other neighbor, they saw her with a U-Haul while I was at work and cleared out my house. Everything. File cabinets, I had to start over with work. I had to like get all my documents, like clear everything out. Dressers, kids room, guest room, bed. Like I was left with nothing. Now the system, this is about like the system works really slowly. So even though I was winning, the system was really slow to punish her with anything she did, whether it was the violence, whether it was taking all of my stuff. And I felt like if it was the other way around, they would have been swift and just. You get me? So she ended up clearing my house out. Even though we had split custody, I had, I think, one extra day and I was the decision maker. She went and tried to switch the daycares without my consent. Every time we exchanged the kids, she would take their underwear, their clothes, send them back into the t-shirt and just some raggedy shorts. She would take their shoes. So it was just draining my resources. Like I always had to buy new stuff for the kids. I had to adjust to being by myself. I had to work less and I had to pay all of these lawyer fees. Not just for the divorce and protective order, but she kept violating it and her family and church was supplying her with a lawyer. So it just cost me exorbitant amounts of money. And I went from having spending money to so far in the red, like I can't lie, I was terrified. Like it was so scary because I was so broke, I was so poor, and there was no end in sight because she just kept violating the protective order. She wouldn't exchange the kids back sometimes. Like, and I would, you know, call the police and it was like, well, we're not going to go to her house and get them. So it was like, at times I wouldn't see my kids for 10, 14 days because she wouldn't exchange the kids. And like I said, the law was just so slow in punishing her or doing anything. But I know if the shoe was on the other foot, I would have been in prison, you know. So all of this stuff keep happening. I keep having to file all of these suits because she keep violating the protective order. And the last straw was right before we were about to go back to complete the divorce. The mediator pretty much informed her that I was going to have the primary custody or whatever, and she didn't like that. So she took the kids to the hospital and said that I sexually assaulted both of my daughters. Now, at that time, she had a warrant out for not exchanging the kids, and she didn't know that. So when she took them to the hospital, the police showed up, and they took her to jail, but I couldn't get the kids because of the allegations. Now my kids had to get taken from us, and they had to undergo medical forensic testing and a psychological forensic testing at 2 and 3 years old at this point. So I was obviously devastated and I was stressed out. But hey, what do? I just had to keep working and had to keep, you know, praying. Long story short, you know, she ended up going to jail for damn near a month, and I ended up getting sole custody after that act because all the tests came back negative, of course. And she just made up a bunch of lies, and honestly, she just ended up eventually like kind of psychologically not the same. And I say all this to say, dudes, be careful, you know, because once you get wrapped up in this system, you don't have the same benefits as women. and they're way slower to punish women, and women have many advantages legally. So you just want to, and any woman who practices feminist ideologies, that's not wifey material. Because feminist at the core is like, go women. Women win, men lose. And any sucker dude that's a feminist, like, please stop. That's the most feminine thing you can do. Think about it. You're a man practicing feminism. Like, stop it, man. That's some real pussy shit. Like, just be careful how you get wrapped up with women. I went through a nightmare. I know countless of other people. And some people are, pushing through their marriage, but you don't never know when the other person is going to snap. When that woman is going to snap, when she's going to listen to her friends or family telling her to, do ladies' night, to travel here with her homegirls, and she getting dug out, getting all of these different energies on her. You don't know when feminism is going to creep into her mind. You don't know that. You don't know when she's going to get tired of listening and respecting you. You don't know when she's going to get tired of your one penis. You know what I'm saying? And want more penises. Like, that can happen at any time. And why would you put the power of your future and destiny into someone else's hand? Yeah, you can get back on track, but man, I done wasted so much time and money. Like, I could have been ahead of where I'm at, but at the end of the day, I'm going to make it happen. It's tough. Like, you try to do the right thing. You want a cohesive family, but it don't always work like that. And most of the time it doesn't. And I know for my generation, like, I'm 34 now, my generation on down, the divorce rate's got to be about like 80%. And of those 20%, like, how many people are happy, or how many people are staying for money, stability, kids, image, pressure, religion, or whatever other reason? You get me? So a lot of people look happy and stuff on the outside, but a lot of this stuff ends badly, especially for men, because the system is going to drain you dry. It's going to drain you, and it's going to be a nightmare. And you're going to have physical ailments that manifest from all of the stress you go through. So just be careful, man. Do whatever in your powers to not get married, because you can get those same benefits. What benefits is it for you to get married? Really? You can get on somebody's health insurance.